Nikola's wrist is still in ice, and that's making us a little nervous. Zeke Naji is on the rise. Plus, the Nuggets have a new TV partner, not Comcast, but a new TV partner. And we'll talk about their betting win total for the season, all that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and we're available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join all sorts of folks like David and Big Honey and Derek and the Mr. Spanek and Milan and all that's the folks hanging out in the chat with us on a Thursday. Glad to have you with us. Broncos game day, folks. Let's ride on a Thursday. Glad to have you guys with us and hope that you guys are having yourselves an excellent week. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by my co-host, Adam Mares of DNVR. You can find them on Twitter at Adam_Mares. Adam, we're going to go. They had practice yesterday. The Nuggets did. And we're going to go ahead and talk about this thing that kind of came up during the game. So Jokic plays in the preseason game, and there's a shot of him later on the bench, and he has the wrist completely wrapped in ice. It's heavily wrapped. I don't know if people know this, but
when you say heavily wrapped,
yeah,
are there levels of wrapped that you is this a true
this
analysis?
Is the whole thing. It's just like if you ever watch any NBA player on the bench that's got a wrap on, they're massive.
Okay. So he had a regular wrap on.
He had a regular wrap on.
But it was massive.
Like that's the thing is like if it was like a small ice, if he had a Ziploc bag full of ice cubes and was holding it on there, then nobody would be freaked out.
Okay.
People were freaked out. Like people freaked out over this. And to make matters a little worse, Jokic didn't participate in the practice the next day. Limited participant, I believe is what it was. Said it felt, quote, a little weird. Milan tried to say in the chat, like, he deals with this every year. I don't know if that's true. I to my recollection, he injured it midseason last year, and that's where the wrist issue kind of first came about. I don't recall.
I think it was at the start of the year. I think he did come into the season with it. But nonetheless, like it's funny. We got the reports. It's nothing. Everybody, it's nothing. And like, to me, I was kind of like, I mean, it's not nothing. Nothing is no ice, no ice required. Everything good, full participation, everything like this. I don't know that we need to sound the alarm or make a big deal, of it just yet. But it is one of those things where it's like, just file it away. Because again, it's not nothing. It's just, is it something that's going to affect the season in any meaningful way? We don't know, but it is something.
It was bothering him late last season. It bothered him at Eurobasket. We saw him having a rep there, and now it's here too. And so I was not at practice. I'm absolutely slammed with preseason prep stuff. So I'm just like writing and pouring through tape and podcasting and doing all bunch of stuff. I couldn't get down there. I will say that the next opportunity that I get to ask a question, I'd like to know if there's been an MRI. I just would like to know, like, has there been imaging done? If you're new to the show, welcome back to the show that never ends, which is Nuggets Media versus the Nuggets medical staff, where everyone loses and no one knows anything. Like, it's our favorite game to play. Yeah. They're extremely secretive on these things, but I do think, like, somebody asked me, like, has there been imaging done? They asked that on Twitter, and I was like, that's a legitimate, like, as my initial response was like, no, it's fine. Like, he said it was fine. It's not going to be a big deal. And then, like, I remembered
that was your rusty off-season Matt brain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. and then I remembered the last 10 years of covering this team in Denver, and I remembered that I should probably not take them at their word whenever they say these types of things. I will say this though, like, if it was the worst case scenario, then like we would already know. It would be like there would be a that would have gotten leaked.
Let's put it this way: like, talking to Yoke, It's so funny because he's usually kind of open in these things. Like, I don't get the sense that this is a thing that's like, oh my God, there's a risk of missed games or this or that. Like, I think it's just one of those things where, Yoke's like, I don't know, it's weird. His response to questions about what does it mean or this or that, he's like, I don't know, we'll see. Like, it's just like, this is a thing that I'm noticing and we'll just kind of see how it goes. But in my mind, that just meant he probably has some sort of lingering pain and he is capable of dealing with it.
It's entirely possible that basically he has like a small tear in something that doesn't require surgery.
Again, I don't want to go here because now we're getting into territory I think is uncomfortable.
That's fine. That's fair.
I'm just saying we don't know. It could be literally any little thing. And
I know. The only thing I'm trying to say is like players have played with these kinds of injuries before and just played through them.
Yeah.
And I get, like, to me, the secretiveness is always kind of built on, I guess, of a fear that, like, a player, I don't know, like, let's just I'm pulling this one completely at random. One of the Morris twins, like, if they were to play one of the Morris twins, that they would, intentionally hit him on the wrist in that circumstance, right? And so, like, from that perspective, whoever it is, the idea is if you reveal that you have this injury, it's more likely that teams are going to beat up on it.
I honestly don't think it's that, Matt. I don't think it's that.
Then what do you think is
teams don't like to reveal anything that is negative. I mean, and it's getting out of control in my opinion. A little anecdote. There is a board in the Nuggets practice facility that has their shooting competition. They're friendly shooting competitions, right? You do these tracking things throughout camp. And those numbers, the leaderboard, we know Jack White's at the top. We don't know anything else. That goes behind closed doors. Like, before media comes in, they hide that board. Now, why do they hide it? Because they don't want media taking pictures of that. And then fans saying, well, why is Jamal Murray sixth? Or is he not shooting the ball well in practice, this or that? Now, in my opinion, this would be like a thing where it's like, come on, people. Like, come on. People on the internet are going to complain about everything. Literally anything. Matt, you have people in your mentions. Will people complain about literally anything to you about you? And it's just a part of, like, we don't make millions of dollars and we deal with it every single day. Your show's dumb. Your takes are this. Like, what's wrong with your face? All of these things. And so I say that to say that the level of protection in today's NBA for their athletes, and by the way, NBA athletes deal with a lot. Social media does put a lot of, like, unused wear and tear on people's mental health, famous people's mental health. But the level of protection for, like, just don't tell anybody anything is I think, at absurd levels. And so with this wrist thing, here we are spending an entire segment speculating on a thing we know nothing about. And apparently that's better than just being like, yeah, he has a strain. We did imaging. Everything looks good, but he has some pain and he'll probably have to deal with it.
That's well said. I do want to note that nobody says anything negative about you. The only negative feedback you get is that your feed keeps cutting out on Restream.
Did it just cut out just now?
No, it's fine. You're fine right now. You're fine. You're fine right now. It's okay. It's okay. But that's how much people like you. Is they get mad when they can't hear. Like, no one's getting mad if I cut out. That's not happening. That's not happening.
I'll tell you that's definitely not true.
Let's take a break.
I just ignore it. I'm never one of these guys that goes back and forth. I had somebody the other, like, I'll do the quick. I've learned the quick block. I used to never block anyone. I was like, I'm just not going to do that. I've learned the quick, like, if I've never interacted with you before, or if you just hop into my mentions aggressively at something, I'm like, not worth an argument. I don't want to go back and forth with this person. Block. Done. Never. This is a person I never want to interact with.
I've set pretty good parameters. I do go back and forth less than I used to. I used to pride myself on being somebody who would engage with anyone. Like, that was the thing I wanted to kind of brand myself as. I cared about that. I wanted to be that type of writer. And then I just learned, like, that's more obnoxious to the people that follow you. Like, people don't want you responding to everyone.
Oh, so true.
And so, like, mostly the block thing for me is, like, if you're that unhappy with what I say, there's no reason for us to continue to know of each other's existence in the universe. That's
how I feel. I am proud of my content and the way I engage. So if you break that, you no longer get access to it. Get out of here. Woj blocked me one time for 3 months and it sucked. Like, say what you will about Woj, but it made my life inconvenient. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make other people's life inconvenient. Get out of here.
Woj has actually blocked my ability to retweet him. He has a special mechanism that very few users have that I can't retweet him.
I love that
He
Woj
doesn't,
has,
he doesn't have me blocked.
yeah.
I just can't retweet him or quote tweet.
That's a really, I'm telling you, Woj is
Power
he's
move.
hilarious.
Power move.
How does he have that? He's so powerful. Even Twitter gives him special powers.
It's true, special powers. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about. I want to about Zeke Naji because I've had some thoughts rolling around my brain, and I've decided to take a position. I am planting a flag, Adam. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I've got to tell you about some of our sponsors, including PrizePicks. Okay, so PrizePicks is awesome. It's a props game where it's really fun to play. I've been on it a lot. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will go score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, and you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people because that stuff gets way too competitive and way too intense, and you have to spend all your time doing it. It's just you versus the projections. That's it. They've got NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They've got safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states in Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. And if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. I know that they're doing a few things for preseason as well. Going to be a lot of really good times there. Just let you know, I'm going to be playing a lot of Luka Doncic overs because I think he's going to have ridiculous usage. Don't forget, to enter promo code Locked On to sign up for an instant deposit match of $100 at PrizePicks. We're also brought to you today by BetOnline. BetOnline is their number one source for football betting info this season. Colts are at Broncos on Thursday Night Football. Broncos open -3. I bet the Colts. I talked to some people. I rethought it. I bought out of it at Broncos -3. It's now 3.5. So I saved myself there. I don't have a bet on this game. The Broncos are obviously beat up with the loss of Javonte. That sucks. That's awful. Colts defense has not been great. And Russell may have like that game that everyone's just keeps saying like, oh, Russell's cooking now. And then he goes back and not so much. Might actually cook tonight. So I think Russell Wilson prop overs. This might be one of the few games where I think there's value on the Broncos team total over. Like in general, I play the unders on those. This might be an opportunity on those. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. They've got all your events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. I went 0-3 on preseason last night because the Thunder couldn't hold a friggin' lead late. Woof. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day and your first listen every day. We really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the season preview. We've got the Ultimate Pro Basketball Preview starting October 10th. It's a 6-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NBA season. The local team experts and NBA insiders of the Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey all combining into one Ultimate NBA Preview. We recorded the revenge episode with the Nuggets are on yesterday. It was great. It was us, the Sixers, the Heat, the Suns, and the Mavericks, all teams I know you guys love. And it basically turned into a roast session. Like we just went around burning each other's teams. It was a lot of fun. Had a really good time. Me and the Sixers guy we went back and forth a little bit. You'll enjoy listening to that. Starting October 10th, just search for the Ultimate Pro Basketball Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. There was a question in the comments of did you guys any news on Jokic's wrist? We just talked about that in the first segment. It's okay. You're live. You're new coming in. It's okay. That's why you got to turn on the notifications and get in as soon as you can. I know it's difficult because we don't always start at the same time, but that's the stuff. We talked about that. Basically, our news is it's probably not great, but it's probably fine. We don't know anything. Eat at Arby's. That's our general. Eat at Arby's. That's our general concession. I want to talk about Zeke Naji. So Zeke was obviously really great in his time in preseason game number 1, but it came at the end of the game essentially with the third unit. Zeke has been widely praised in training camp. There was a lot of hype coming out about him after like the first couple of days where you were I like, I haven't really heard about a lot of Zeke. Then it became like a lot of Zeke buzz, and it got louder. He looks great. The shot's still there, even though he reworked it. That's comforting because when he was shooting up in I will tell you, it's a funny anecdote, Adam. He was shooting up in warmups, and there was a little bit of like, guys, Zeke's shot is like all messed up, and like he was missing everything. He comes into the game and he hits a three, and it looks fine. So all these kind of things happen, and Malone's talking about him being a 5, and he's talking about him being a 4. I've talked about him being a wing last year, but it's fine. There's progress. If Zeke Naji is comfortable playing the 5, if he's like, yeah, no, as long as I've got like Jeff Green or out there, and I'm not going against like whatever backup center you want to think of that could give him problems, because like I was talking about this with Blackburn, because Ryan's like, what center are you really worried about? I was like, I'm not worried about Dwayne Dedmon scoring 20 points on Zeke Naji. I'm worried about Dwayne Dedmon putting him into a cast in the hospital because Dwayne Dedmon is a tough, big dude. Like, that's my concern with Zeke, right? But if Zeke Naji is ready to play 5, and regardless, even if he's not, quite honestly, even if he's not, if it means that Jeff Green's going to go into the last slot because you want to play him at 4, that's fine. Adam, it's time for Zeke Naji to get into the rotation. Like, he's got to be, in my opinion, it needs to be Bones, Bruce Brown, and then Zeke Naji.
Like the 3?
No. I'm saying in terms of the reserve.
in the pecking order of who needs to be playing on the second unit.
Yes.
I got you.
So like first sub is Bones. Second, sometimes Bones will come in with Bruce. I think that's probably going to happen a little bit. But like the next guy off of that bench needs to be Zeke Naji.
So we have to, this is another thing where covering the NBA, where it's this bizarro world, Matt. It really is a bizarro world, because Zach Lowe is raving about Zeke Naji. Clearly he's hearing the buzz out of camp. I'm sure he's talking directly to people with the Nuggets organization. Zeke Naji looks incredible. Michael Malone is telling us he was the standout of camp. Number 1 guy, if you want to tell me one, but where is he in the rotation? 11th. Something doesn't add up here. He was a first-round draft pick. First-round draft picks, by the way, like you give them, if it's 50-50, your first-round draft pick in year 3 usually gets the nod. Like, okay, that guy, we got to go with him because he's the guy we invested this asset on. So how is he in the third? This is the thing I'm trying to figure out. It's preseason, so I don't want to make a big deal of it just yet. I've said my theory was that Malone likes it when guys, veteran players in particular, if they're on the roster, you need the young guys to outperform them because you want to like establish this. Maybe that's what's going on. But if you get into night number 1, week number 1 of the regular season, and Zeke Naji is the 11th guy in this rotation, something doesn't add up to me.
In my opinion, there are 3 scenarios. Okay. Scenario number 1, and Mike Singer kind of leaned towards this when we were talking about it post game. That's essentially Malone wanted to see what that unit looked like with both the vets, Jeff and DeAndre. And next game, they're going to flip it and see what it looks like differently. Right. So Zeke goes 11th now. Next game, Zeke will be the backup 5, and DeAndre will be the 11th, right?
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be just that you swap these, you're kind of doing a little dance here.
Option 2 is what we talked about after the game on Tuesday, is where Malone wanted to see how he would respond if he didn't get those minutes, and he put him in at the end to see what that level of effort and focus would look like. Possible, right? Seems like a very Malone mechanism. I would argue that at this point, 1, he's not a rookie, and he's not even a second year dude. It's his 3rd year. Zeke's been around. Like, Zeke's been here. He's been in the gym. He's done the work. At some point, you're basically only treating him like he's super young because the rest of your guys are so old, and that's not the same thing. 3, third option is that he wants that Malone basically is instead of like testing him, it's, remember last year how we would kind of ask about various players in the rotation, and Malone was like, we won in the playoffs with those guys. Do you remember that?
No.
So we started asking questions early on in the season about various guys in the rotation, JaMychal, and Facu to a degree. And one of Malone's responses about why those guys were getting minutes instead of like Bones or whoever else was we've won playoff games with those guys. Those guys were with us in the playoffs. I think it's possible that that's a leading determination. Now, that doesn't explain DeAndre, right? But if he's trying not to play Zeke full-time at 5, because Zeke has said basically he's a power forward, right? If he's trying to play, if DeAndre's the backup 5, right, and Jeff's helped them win in the playoffs, then it becomes like that kind of question. I don't know if I buy that. Like, I just don't know if that's like Jeff won. You didn't win a series with Jeff. You didn't.
Yeah.
So,
I don't. Maybe that's. I don't know. I mean, this would be a good question. For Michael Malone. It's just, hey, is Zeke going to move up in the standings? Like, how do we put these two things together? What we're hearing about all the hype and then seeing where he's at on the depth chart. And I see Hurricane here in the comments says Bigs take time, man. This is year 3. This is year 3. To me, I don't think that's true. Like, Bigs take time. 3 years. Year 3, especially when the guy you have to beat out is a DeAndre Jordan, a vet minimum guy. To me, that doesn't add up. So again, I'm not trying to say there's a lie going on or a panic or any of that. All I'm saying is I expect him to be in the rotation. I expect him to be one of the top 10 guys. The fact that he's not that and he's getting all this hype, to me, is just a little strange. And I want to see how it all shakes out. I will say, you started this conversation by saying that second unit needs a little bit more spacing. Zeke, I think, provides that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he provides enough of it. Like, if you just took DeAndre Jordan out and put Zeke Naji in, you lose the rim rolling. DeAndre had 4 dunks in that game. Like, he actually did have a presence in terms of just putting pressure on the paint. So, but then you add more spacing. How does that, in one hand out the other? Is it a net positive? I really don't know the answer to that. I would like to get a couple games under our belt of seeing it. But I say all that to say, I don't know that Zeke is going to have the impact of like a Michael Porter or a Jamal Murray or somebody like that really provides that 3-point spacing.
Yeah, probably the answer, if we're trying to like diagnose that second unit, and again, we're going off on preseason game, but if we're trying to diagnose that second unit conceptually, I think you and I are on the same page of it's probably Zeke and a stagger, right? Like, that combo is probably gets you home. Wouldn't you agree?
Zeke and who?
A stagger of some of the starters, whether it's hopefully like multiple staggers, right? Like Jamal and MPJ, I think most especially. Maybe KCP, but
to me it's funny, man, because I don't know if the plan is to stagger Michael Porter, but to me he makes the most sense to send there. Yeah. They have a lot of good defenders on that second unit, so why not stick Michael Porter there to help you score and space the court? But I don't know if that's the plan or not.
Put the guy that just makes tough buckets on the team that needs on the unit that needs tough buckets. Like, that seems pretty logical to me. It makes a lot of sense. Either way, I just will say that, like, it's more than past time for, like, Zeke's done the work. He's made himself, like, he added muscle. He's bigger. He's able to play the positions they need him to play. He's worked on the stuff that he needs to work on. He's shown up well in camp. He can still shoot. It's probably time to go ahead and get Zeke Naji into the key rotation, I would think.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll talk about a few things. New TV partner for the Nuggets. Also, I've got some thoughts on the Nuggets win total. If you're looking to make a little wager this week on the Denver Nuggets futures, we'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 daily fantasy basketball show on the planet. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Final segment here with Adam Mares. Good comment from Tyson there, which I did not read in time.
He said, Zeke, and I agree with this, Zeke's weakness in the past has been finishing at the rim, and he looked very good at that in this first preseason game. And I would agree with that. It's one of his weaknesses, and he did take it up strong. And you could tell he had a dunk, and then he kind of screamed, like, which we've never seen, like almost trash talked. And it's like, yeah, we haven't seen that from Zeke. So hopefully, maybe he is feeling himself physically because he just feels stronger inside. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, so first off, the Nuggets announced this morning a new TV partner. So for those of you that are out wandering in the woods, still trying to figure out how to watch the Nuggets without using one of the streams that's going to cause your computer to eventually self-destruct. Fubo actually has inked a deal with Altitude. So this is the Altitude obviously deals with DirecTV, and what's the local have? Colorado Springs.
Vodka TV?
Avaca TV. And now Fubo joins it as well. So coverage of the Denver Nuggets, they've got 74 of the regular season games, so another option. They were supposed to have a arbitration meeting, I thought, for Comcast, and I think that date got postponed. So that's still waiting. People are still super, like, my wife's just steaming about the Avalanche. Just livid about the situation continuing. And is this going to be year 4? Is this going to be the 4th season without local coverage on the major cable provider?
Crazy.
So anyway, Steve asked if will Fubo do the Avs too? Yes. So all the Altitude programming goes on Fubo, so you get all the games at Rapids, Mammoth. I'm sure they have another team. All the Altitude content is in there. Okay, so Adam had a run, which is okay because I was going to talk a lot in this last segment anyway, and we're wrapping up here on Locked On Nuggets. Adam had a meeting he had to get to. So I want to talk about the Nuggets win total for you guys. The Nuggets win total currently is at 51.5. It opened in the market at 49.5 wins, and then it has jumped to 51.5. A lot of money coming in. Denver is one of the most bet teams in the market on the over. There's just like a lot of optimism. I will tell you, so I've done a lot of research. I've done more research on win totals than ever before, not just from a team perspective. I just got done writing the Nuggets section yesterday. And I'm not only doing it from the perspective of like, what does a team look like? Can they win X amount of games? But looking at historically, I will warn you of this. 50 wins is a big key number in the NBA. So over the last 10 years, about 58% of the teams with a win total over 50 have gone under. Kevin Pelton said on the Zach Lowe podcast that figure essentially goes back to at least 2002. If you have a win total over 50, you don't go under. We kind of consider 50 to be a soft number, like, oh yeah, they can win 50 wins. It's harder than you think. A lot of teams just simply stop short of it. I'm ignoring all that because I bet them at 49.5 when the number first came out. Garrett says he got in at 50.5 here in the comments. And I went ahead and I bet them again at 51.5. I have a big position on the Nuggets. It's one of my bigger ones in the market. We were talking about this at media or the preseason game, kind of going around the room and getting a feel on projections before the game, and nothing from the preseason game has kind of cooled me off of this, even with Jokic. Once again, Lujbisha asked, what happened with Jokic? Is he okay? First segment, the answer is like, probably. Says he's all right, feels weird. I would say that it's not like everything's like, oh yeah, it's really no big deal. It's going to be totally fine. That's not the impression that I've gotten, but we also just don't know anything. And Adam really didn't want us speculating, which I think is fair. There's no indication that it's a major problem, is what I would tell you. There is no indication that it's a major problem. There's no indication that like he's going to be totally fine tomorrow. That's what I would say. Going around the room at the media, in the media room before the preseason game, the kind of idea is 54 to 56 is what most of the ranges were. I'm at 55. I think they win 55 games. If you told me everything went right for the Nuggets this year, like everything went right. Okay. They had great injury luck. Jamal bounced back in short order in terms of his percentages. Bones made a leap. The bench unit got figured out. Everything worked out. I'd say they won 62 games. That's an extremely high number, but that's how good they are. We've said it kind of consistently since the preseason. I think this is going to be one of the best offenses we've ever seen. I think they have an outside chance at being the best offensive rating in NBA history. There's a lot that has to go right there in terms of just shooting luck, but I think it's very possible that their shooting number, that their offense is just going to be ridiculous. So it all basically comes down to the defense. Can they get the defense up to top 15? Bad start versus the Thunder. Singer had a great article talking about the Hubies they gave up, which was basically just ball watching. Just standing there, not getting back on defense and not crashing the glass. It's mostly a product of the preseason. I hope that they'll get engaged. The biggest thing for them in terms of regular season wins Malone is shockingly, surprisingly. This number really surprised me, guys, because the perception that we all kind of have of the Nuggets is that they screw around in a lot of these in the games versus the bad opponents. Like that's always been kind of the idea, is that versus the bad teams, the Nuggets lose a lot of these games, and it's just not true. Under Michael Malone, the Nuggets are 149 and 67 at 69%. Yes, nice. In games versus teams that finished under 500. If you win more than 68% of your games versus teams under 500, you go over 65, 21, and 1. You almost always go over. The Nuggets win their home games 64% of the time. Those teams almost always go over. And they win their division games. Malone has won 55% of his division games straight up. Last season was a weird aberration going back the other way. You do those things, you win a lot of games. The Nuggets are likely to win a lot of games. They also absolutely, I think, need to focus, though. Like, their biggest thing is they have to not believe their own hype. Like, Malone's message of don't talk about it, be about it, it has to get through. Like, this team has to approach this regular season. They need to approach the first 2 months of the regular season with killer intent. Like, they need to basically be like, we are going to run through everyone until Christmas, and then we're going to chill out from January through the end of the year. That's all they got to do. Like, that's really what they got to do. If the Nuggets can play 2.5 months of awesome, awesome basketball, that gets them home to a top 3 seed and home court and all sorts of great stuff. But they have to go ahead and they have to put the hammer down. Like, they can't, if they buy into the hype and they think that they can get through games based off of talent versus Orlando or Detroit or Houston, OKC last year. Like, they were losing games at OKC last year. And yeah, the roster's a lot better. And there is a margin here that there wasn't last year. If you play badly versus OKC, but you have Jamal Murray and MPJ, you will win those games at a higher percentage of the time. That brings your win percentage, even in games where you don't play well, up from 55 to 60% to 65 to 70%. Just based off of the availability of those guys. Because it's like, look, we didn't play defense. We didn't rebound. Our shooters didn't shoot well, but MPJ had 35. And that was all we needed to get by. So, I think that there's value there. There's a win total, or there's a conference seeding at DraftKings, which is 4.5. Actually 5.5. I'm sorry. It's 5.5. The list is Suns, Clippers, Warriors. The Grizzlies are 4.5. That's absurd. And then Nuggets at 5.5. It's juiced under. If you bet at DraftKings, I would highly recommend you going under on the Nuggets seeding. It is difficult for me to find scenarios where even if the Timberwolves are one of the best teams in the league, and even if the Pelicans make a monster leap, I can't find a scenario where the Nuggets are not top 4. I can't do it. Couple Snail says, I don't think I can handle another slow start like last year. It set a shitty tone for the rest of the regular season. You're chasing then. Like, again, they need to get off to a hot start. We've talked about this a lot. They need to get off to a hot start. Ben Max says, for Bones, do you think too much killer intent can make him play too much ISO ball? It's a good question. I think that Zeke will try and do too much at times. I think that that's true. I think that building a more mechanism, but I will say there will always be a push and pull here because of the perception of Malone, where there will always be an idea when a star player that people like is struggling, there will be the idea that the coaching staff needs to do more to get them involved. This has always been the thing, is like the blame always kind of goes to Malone in these situations. Like, if it's a player that people like, if Jeff Green or Will Barton are missing shots or playing badly, it's why are those guys playing? They're bad. Why are they on this roster, right? If Bones or MPJ struggle, then it's why doesn't the coaching staff do more to get them involved? That's just the nature of the beast. So that's all kind of part of it. But I will just tell you, I think 51.5 is an over. I think the conference seeding 5.5 is an under. I think there's a very good chance. I think there's good odds on them to win the most games in the West. Probably not for the league. I think there's a chance one of the East teams might rack up 60 plus. But I think there's a pretty good chance the Nuggets could wind up with a 1 seed, which would be ideal for them with the altitude advantage and not having to travel. So Vincent says, any concern about Malone's comment about MPJ and specifically calling him out, at least in name? At some point, MPJ is responsible for his own stuff. Like, I will just say this. Guys, MPJ got paid. MPJ's starting. MPJ has been given the opportunities here. So it's on him now. And Malone should not be held to the standard of keeping Michael Porter Jr. happy. Like, that should not be his job. Keeping Nikola Jokic, okay, yeah, that's the franchise. Like, that's just, guess what? He's the meal ticket for sure. Jamal, I'd say so. Like, Jamal's the other meal ticket. I think that you got to do that there. And MPJ is really important. I can't blame Malone for being frustrated. I can't. I don't know how you can be. I don't know how you can blame Malone for being frustrated. You know? Because he does make the mistakes, just because he covers them up with how unreal his shooting is, which we continue to say is why he has to start and has to be on the team, right? If he was any worse offensively, MPJ's role would be perilous. Like, his standing in the team would be in peril. But he's that good, and so he gets the leash. But that doesn't mean that he's immune to criticism. And Malone, I think, is trying anything to try and spark that accountability because it's a challenge. That said, MPJ shot the ball really well, and that's all he really needs to do. So even if those two don't get along, I don't even think it really matters because MPJ makes their net rating better, and MPJ gets buckets, and he can annoy everyone along the way. But as long as he makes them better, the end result's the same. All right, let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you guys have yourselves a great Thursday. Good luck with the Broncos tonight. Let's ride. Give us those 5-star reviews and totally unrelated news. Give us your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, and make sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It's the best way to support the show. We'll be back tomorrow previewing the Denver Nuggets preseason game number 2. I'll tell you this, they need to get a win. We said this, we were joking about the Suns losing to the Adelaide 36ers. But the Suns beat the Lakers last night. You got to get one preseason win. You can't go winless in preseason. It's a bad vibe. So the Nuggets need to get one. Their next chance is tomorrow night. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.